Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, continuing our study of Paul's letter to Titus. We talked about the greeting yesterday. Today, we're going to be looking at chapter 1, verses 5 through 9, which include Paul's qualifications for elders. Titus 1:5. For this reason I left you in Crete, that you might set in order what remains, and appoint elders in every city as I directed you. Namely, if any man be above reproach, the husband of one wife, having children who believe, not accused of dissipation or rebellion. For the overseer must be above reproach, as God's steward, not self-willed, not quick-tempered, not addicted to wine, not pugnacious, not fond of sordid gain, but hospitable, loving what is good, sensible, just, devout, self-controlled, holding fast to faithful words, which is in accordance with teaching, that he may be able both to exhort and in sound doctrine, and to refute those who contradict. There's so much here. Um, Let me say this. Um, this is a list of qualifications for elders, and it stands on its own. I was raised and trained to take Timothy's list and Titus's list and then just add them to each other and make one list. But we can't use these lists this way. We take both lists and we lay one on top of the other and we let them explain each other. But we don't make a longer laundry list by adding them together. Paul didn't say to Titus, here's a partial list. I'll be writing to Timothy in a few years. You need to borrow his. He didn't say to Timothy, hey, these are only some of the qualifications. You need to write to Titus and get the rest. He didn't say that. Each list is enough for its purpose. Each list stands on its own. And I think what we can tell from this is that the main thing is that an elder is a man above reproach, a phrase that he repeats in this very short but packed full of information section of this letter. For this reason I left you in Crete. Paul had been there with him and left him behind. And then this is the reason. I want you to go around to all the congregations, establish them, and appoint elders. That's why the letter's written at all, to follow up with this man that he trusted about the job that he entrusted him to do. And so elders are not an option, and they're not a luxury. They are necessary to the long-term health and growth of any congregation, a plurality of local elders. Nothing is clearer in the New Testament about being a church than this, that the kingdom exists at the local level, at the level of the local church. He didn't say, go around the cities of Crete, appoint elders in every city, divide Crete up into 3 parishes, appoint a bishop for each parish and an archbishop for the island of Crete. He didn't tell him to do that. Each congregation is autonomous, answerable to God and the Word of God, and they are shepherded by elders, not ruled by elders, but shepherded by elders who have real authority, but who exercise that authority as shepherds, not as tyrants. Something that Peter makes clear in 1 Peter chapter 5, beginning with verse 1, and that Paul makes clear here. If a guy likes to argue, if a guy is a sourpuss, if a guy is not someone who's eager to serve, if he doesn't know what he's talking about, if he's you do not pick that guy. Don't care what his standing is, don't care how smart he is, how rich he is. There's a certain kind of man that can serve as elder. Now, we don't have in our culture the tradition of eldership that their culture had and that most cultures around the world have. But the village elder is a role that everyone would have known and recognized. And if you want to read about a village elder and what a village elder does, read Job chapter 29. Because in Job chapter 29, Job is remembering back when he was an elder of the city. and missing those days when he could dispense good judgment to people who needed advice and take care of the weak and the needy when they needed someone to speak for them and to protect them. So he's describing exactly the same thing that Paul is describing in the book of Titus. The role hasn't changed. We need a group of men, older men, who have wisdom and who have big hearts and who take care of us as the congregational grandfathers who can sit at the gate of the city, who can sit together at church and have wise counsel and lead us in the way that we should go. So so that's the role of elder that he's describing. Next time, we're going to talk about the requirements themselves. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.